Plug in some attitude with Sound Poise.
Sebastian, so nice to see you, and on a day like today, it's really, I mean, because, you know, it's been a big quarter for Arturia, you know, Astrolab, and now this. I mean, woohoo!
Yeah, there's plenty of new stuff happening. It's, I'm so happy to be at the show and have, you know, like a big instrument like this to announce. This thing is a beauty. This thing is really a beauty. It's Polybrute 12. It's our new flagship polyphonic analog synth. I'm going to run you through it for a bit. Basically, it is Polybrute. You know, the best way to summarize it is Polybrute, which we announced 3 years ago. Yeah. We're going to go a little bit through what Polybrute is, with twice the number of voices, so 12 voices now, and a new MPE-capable polyphonic aftertouch keybed.
Is that, yeah, I wondered about that. Is that one that you've designed specifically for Arturia, or is it?
It was designed specifically by us, yeah, by Arturia, which took quite a few years, actually. Designing keybeds is hard, harder than you might think, but the result is beautiful. You know, it feels great, and it can do many things in terms of modulations that we can hear afterwards. Yeah. So maybe just briefly, going back to what Polybrute is, you know, analog polysynth, 2 oscillators, 2 filters with very different characters, Steiner Parker and the ladder filter, 3 envelopes, 3 LFOs, a big modulation matrix, some effects, and a sequencer. You know, it's a very capable instrument in terms of sound and modulation.
Yeah.
It's got morphing. You know, all of the patches morph from one sound to the other, and this is also very flexible in terms of sound. And finally, it was designed to be an instrument that's very expressive and something I want to play. You know, like going with this Morphe, this XYZ controller with the ribbon that is hidden in the wood over there. You know, like you have the knobs, you can tweak, but then once you're happy with the patch, you can just, you know, get lost in playing it. Yeah,
very expressive. I mean, it's one of my desert island synths actually, because it's just, yeah. So now it's twice.
Well, now it's going to be this one.
Yeah,
trust me. So now as for the differences, well, first, it's got 12 voices. 12 voices means much bigger unisons. It means like not like voice stealing is not as much of a problem, you know. Like with the sustain pedal, but even like with long releases.
Yeah, you just get soundscapes, effectively, don't you?
Yeah, you just get soundscapes very easily. So that's one thing, you know. It's great also for layers, you know, like doing layers. Like for instance, Dispatch plays 2 voices. It's a layer, so we got like 4 oscillators playing on each voice, and then. So that would be 6 voices playing at the same time with 2 voices at each time, so 12 voices. But yeah, you know, like beefy unison, beefy layers.
Yeah, no, and of course, I mean, I guess with all that extra voice stuff in there, you've got these the grills at the back. So
yeah, so to put 6 more voices, it had to be taller. It's like 1 row of voice cards at the top, which we already had, and then another row underneath. So it's taller now, and because of the heat that these voices generate, we wanted that we need to get the heat out of the instrument. We didn't want to use fans because they're noisy and we don't like fans.
Oh, sure.
So we are using this where it's got grills here and holes underneath, and it uses a chimney effect. So basically, there's air movement, a vertical air movement that sucks the hot air out of the instrument.
Is it called? Is it Bernoulli? Is it called the Bernoulli effect?
I don't know. I don't know if that's the Bernoulli. It might be.
It's convection, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But the point is, the air is uniformly cooler inside, which it's really difficult to have an airflow where all the voices actually benefit from the airflow. We tried with like holes at the front and at the back, it was not working. We tried different designs, but ultimately this one is what worked best. and I love the look that it gives with the grills at the back.
Right.
So that's the thing. Yeah, 12 voices mean it had to be a bigger baby. It's a bit heavier for sure.
Well, inevitably, it's a, you know, it's a, as I said for the original, it's a look at my synth. It's a big. Let's have a couple more sounds while we can.
All right. And maybe it's an opportunity to talk about the second new highlight of this product, which is this Poly Aftertouch Keybed. Poly Aftertouch, so each of the voice gets its own modulation. You know, I press the key and then Aftertouch is done down here. That's, let's say, regular polyphonic aftertouch. I mean, it's not new, but it's fairly new that it's become common on synthesizer, but it's already very capable. Now, what this thing can do, what we call full touch, is this technology where we know the position of the key across the entire key range, starting from the top. So that means that we can do different ways of playing, like this one, where slightly touching the key is giving me the sound, and then the entire key range is done for modulation. You know, if we listen to this patch, for instance.
So the pressure starts essentially at the top of the treble.
The pressure starts right at the top. And the main difference with polyphonic aftertouch is how more accurate you are. You know, I can really like hold my fingers like this or like this. And really have this level of precision, which is not really easy to do when it's just like pressure at the bottom. So that's...
Well, it's more in keeping with some other instruments which are based more on touch, you know, like the Roley, the Touche, and the Haken. It's that sort of level of expression.
That's correct. That's correct. And that's what I mentioned. It's a MPE-capable because, well, this could... I mean, basically, what we just listened to is regular full touch, which means trigger at the top and then the entire key span for aftertouch. Now, we can also do things where we have a first movement on the first section of the key and then something else at the bottom. So splitting the key range in two, that's the second mode, which is full touch plus Z. It's called plus Z because the Z row of the matrix here is where you control the second part of the note. So simple movement with aftertouch, and then having something more dramatic. It feels really natural when you program a patch that you want something that opens at the beginning and then has something, you know, you press it and you feel something different.
And it's interesting because then each patch can become almost an instrument in its own right that you have to learn how to play it dynamically. It's very interesting.
Yeah. It's what's interesting is that most of these patches, if I just not move my finger, the sound is quite static. You know, the beauty arises from how I give them motion with my finger and not through like extensive modulations or automation.
Yeah, it's like a dynamic envelope for every note. Really,
it's a dynamic envelope for every note. And it's a good point that you mentioned that because the third mode is called touch envelope. And the reason for that, the reason for that is many times we were doing patches and we were like, I'm not using the envelope because I want my finger to control the amplifier and the filter. You know, I want to open the sound with my finger. So what I was doing is just setting the envelopes to not have any effect, and then using the modulation matrix to do like aftertouch to VCA, aftertouch to cutoff, and doing things like that. And I was always going back to these same programming techniques and not using the envelopes. So we figured out, okay, let's use the envelopes in a very different way, and the touch envelope modes to keep a little bit of detail. Instead of responding to like a note on and note off, the envelopes now respond continuously to my finger position.
Right.
Meaning, like the attack is when I press, how long it's going to take to follow. It's like a slew limiting on my movement of my finger, how long it's going to take to catch up with my finger. When I release, the decay is how long it's going to take to release. The sustain is, does it let me go back to zero or does it stay up as I release my finger? And the release is basically a release, you know. If you want to give it a listening, so... You know, this is just like kind of a simple patch where the, you know, like this is the filter amount directly, and just with this I'm controlling I'm controlling how the aftertouch responds because the envelope is now my finger. So if I have like long attack and decays, if I press some notes quite sharply, oh wait, let me get this. It's gonna take some time for the sound to rise. If I set them down, it really follows my movement. So depending on the things you want to do, if you want to be for a long evolving pad, set them high. If you want something that is more mush.
Right, okay. And is that per voice as well?
It's for each note.
Each note.
And you actually have the two filter and amplifier envelope, and you can control for both of them how you want the sound to respond.
And then you could just use the envelopes to loop and modulate other stuff, right?
And not these ones.
But
in that case, but then the looping, you do it yourself.
Okay,
you do it yourself. The third envelope still stays a classic ADSR envelope. The first two envelopes become this very new way of playing. Let me just explain one more thing on the envelope. So the release is how long it takes for the sound to release, basically like a regular ADSR. And then these sliders here, velocity, what they do is they change how the envelope responds to my play style. If I'm gonna play softly, it just follows my finger, but if I play hard, it's gonna pluck the envelope. Let's listen to that. So here, just following my finger, just what we just saw, but then if I start to tap the envelope, I get this effect. I'm gonna take down the velocity slider and listen without. No, it's really just my finger position. Set it high again. And the beauty is that I can really morph between these two, you know.
So that's almost look ahead, isn't it? So impressive, and it doesn't introduce any latency because it's kind of thinking, what's your finger doing? Right, now I need to do that. So there's that's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, right? It's
the velocity is known right as I slightly strike the key. Is it high or not? Okay, if it's high, then we are gonna plug the envelope. Is this kind of rules? I would say there's a lot of that in Polybrute. It's same with the morphing, where there's a lot of thing in the background.
Could you map that Z or that to morph between patches?
Yes. Yes, you can use aftertouch to morph, and on a patch where it really makes sense to have two very different tones, you can use the aftertouch to just morph from one to the other.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, right there.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the envelope touch. Just listen to another. Again, a sound that is very static if I don't move my finger, but all the motion, all the subtlety of that sound comes from like how I'm slightly moving the keys.
Do you think it's improved your playing style having a keyboard like this to use?
It's funny. You need to play a bit differently, you know, because the keys start at the top. You know, it takes a bit of getting used to. You tend to play more slowly because you want to give more room to each of the notes. So as a way, I'm not a keyboard virtuoso by any means, but this, since it's really more on pressure and movement, I tried to learn that. I played a bit with it, and I don't know. I feel it feels more adapted to how I can play because I'm not really good at like quickly changing notes, but you know, giving some movement like that, I find it fairly easy and enjoyable.
Okay, so I have to ask you: have you got a patch with total unison that we can hear?
No, but we can make one.
Okay.
You know,
I always have to.
Let's start with a init patch. Set it to unison, and then let's go settings, synth voice, unison voice count, and set it to 12. And add a little bit of detuning. Are you clipping? No, not clipping yet.
It's funny, isn't it? You have to add detune, otherwise it sounds really sort of weird.
The detune, no detune. No detuning on unison doesn't really sound great.
It sounds like a radio.
Yeah. Adding some stereo width.
Oh wow, yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much.
All right,
beautiful.
And maybe to conclude this this presentation, just going through how the sequencer and the arpeggiator adapt to these new playing techniques that we have with full touch. Yes. Let's listen to this patch. So basically now, the position of my finger becomes the velocity of each of the notes of the harp. So I can really control which notes I want to emphasize.
That's nice. So same effects algorithms on these as well, because the effects are really great on the Polybrute.
Yeah,
same in here.
It's the same effects. The voice is the same. Basically, it's the same oscillator, filter. All the voice is the same effects. The only difference is, well, cosmetic to accommodate the voices. There's one new button right here, aftertouch button, that lets you toggle between the different aftertouch modes that we've been discussing. And so the morph knob moved to the left to give room for that. But everything else is really, you know, what was already great on Polybrute, and we didn't want to change that, and we just stuck to improving the expressivity and the number of voices. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, is the arpeggiator common, or is there one per layer?
It's common.
Okay, right.
It is common, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, no, you can choose, you can split and have arpeggiator on one of the sides, like.
Yeah.
And again, because it's full touch, like my arpeggiator. In this case, it's the matrix arpeggiator. It's kind of between the ARP and the sequencer. I can write a program a pattern on the matrix, and then it chooses it. It's based on the notes that I play. And it's a split, so.
Right, gotcha.
Right.
Beautiful.
Yes.
So you announced it on Monday, right? So, or was it Tuesday? Tuesday. Yeah.
Tuesday.
Do you know? Is it on the plane, on the boat? Is it coming? You know, is it going to be? When are people going to be able to get it?
It's being manufactured. It's being manufactured. I can't really tell exactly when there's going to be unit in store, but expect it in the coming month.
Right.
Okay. And the price is set. Is going to be €3,999.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, you know, why ever not? It's a massive, great synth with a lot, and it's, you know, yeah. Anyway, I can't wait to get my hands on it. Thank you so much, Seb.
Thank you.